You remember on Warframe whenever I was like skateboarding on my knees?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're stuck in an animation like this. It's like you're in mid-jump. Your toe is just gliding across the ground.
He just looks like this. This is what you look like. Whee!
Hey, what is going on, my fellow godlies? This is Vance from Starcom, and boy oh boy am I glad to be done with Season 2 of Warframe God Builds. Don't get me wrong, it's been very humbling to feel nearly a year ago all the love and support of the people that brought us up to 4K subscribers. But I just gotta take some time to step away from the game to launch other IPs I originally intended to do all along, and give this 18.13 problem time to remedy itself, because it really kind of capped out that ceiling of what you can do in terms of in-game, and that's what God Builds is based around. But in talking about Inaros, I gotta take some time to fanboy over this frame because I love his theme, I love what he brings to the game, I especially appreciate Egyptian mythology, and I love the involvement of his quest. I gotta thank DE and appreciate everything that they've done thus far, and look forward to all the Warframes that come that are just like this. But I've gotta call it how I see it, unfortunately, and state that all the abilities mesh with Inaros make him subscribe to really nothing within the game. In fact, he could be used as a DPS, he could be used as a tank, he could be used as a CC. Everything that he does essentially provides these roles within the team. He's sort of a jack of all trades. The only thing that doesn't really fit with the others here is Devour. His power to cast a single target Scarab Swarm really makes no sense here. And it makes no sense because Inaros is kind of a summoner, is he not? But the only summoning that he does is very dependent upon if he kills things with Scarab Swarm and Devour. And at endgame level content, you won't be doing that at all. So my recommendation here is to combine Devour with Scarab Swarm, making it so all the targets affected by Scarab Swarm are things that you can hold X on and get the health from, and your teammates can do it as well. That way it opens up a slot for DE to add an additional power which manually summons something. And for that I specifically recommend summoning a sand version of yourself, which utilizes the loadout that you have and all the mods that you bring onto the field. It of course would scale with enemy level and of course the mods that you use. But it would be a very interesting concept to add to the game, since Devour and Scarab Swarm are very lackluster, being separate from each other. Now in terms of builds, I went with the standard setup. There's nothing special here. There's one Forma, and the reason why I'm going for that type of setup is because we can't really afford to go negative with everything that he does. As I stated earlier, he is a jack of all trades, and he utterly needs everything that we put in here, minus the Toxic Flight. At this point, I don't think that I have to explain anything to you guys. It's been 2 seasons now, and you kind of get why I put the mods that I put in there, especially if you're a frequent player of Inaros, you get why these mods are important to him. Now, I ran into the issue with primary weapons with Inaros, specifically because I didn't find anything that meshed well with his abilities. There's just nothing that synergized. So I decided to spotlight a relatively new weapon in the form of Zhuge, and look at that 99.9% status chance. I included the standard mods for damages, but I went with a little bit of crit, putting in the Argon Scope and the Vital Sense, and then the rest is all status with Corrosive and Heat. But there was a big problem with the secondaries because I opted to use Furus just because it can put back health, but there's 2 problems here. A, we featured it with Wukong, Avara, and Chroma, so it's getting kind of tiring to feature it in God Builds at this point. And B, when we used it in battle, it wasn't very practical, specifically because it takes so long to put any health back with Inaros because he's got that big health pool. when we could just be using that time to use our abilities to put our health back. So I'll just put a clicky here on screen, that way you can refer to that build in a different video, and we're going to spotlight another new weapon. Now, this is a day 100 login reward, so if you don't have it, just wait until you've logged in until 100 days. But we're using Azima, and we used it during the 18.13 update video on Sarin, and you got to see how it was used and see why it was effective. It has a totally different role here with Inaros. Of course, we will be using it to knock down enemies with this status chance being what it is, 32.8%, but upon energy cast, the embedded catalyzer is going to proc an additional 90% status chance. Primarily the reason why I use Azima is specifically because I like to knock enemies down using Blast. It's a great utility weapon, and in those instances where things are getting really hectic, you've already used your Scarab Swarm to the maximum amount of ability you can dump your clip onto the ground and turn it into a turret in the hopes of knocking down enemies. Especially in those hectic situations where your teammate has fallen, you need to revive them, and you need to fall back on your health or your companion shielding you. This is going to add that little extra oomph that you need to get your teammate up off the ground. Last weapon I want to talk about here is the Lacera. Now this weapon is very impressive because I think at this point it's the highest status rate weapon in the game. With a 100% status chance, it's really going to take into consideration your corrosive and heat combo while you kick dirt in the enemy's face and capitalize on that punishing finisher damage. It's absolutely worth it to that point. Now for all the forma that we didn't put into Inaros, we're going to be putting into our Kubrow. Because our Kubrow is using 7 forma. That's right, Otogi makes her triumphant return to God Builds as a series because she's really been perfected at this point. Now I chose to run with Sahasa specifically because Dig is so useful. Anytime you run out of ammo, anytime you run out of energy, anytime you run out of health, it doesn't seem like RNG. Sahasa really recognizes what you need and digs it up. Link armor is going to take into consideration the armor that you put on your build. Link health is going to make it so your Kubrow's health goes up to 9,000. Couple that with Maul and Bite, and you're going to see your Kubrow not only outperforming you, but outperforming a lot of your teammates as well. Out of the 15 times that my teammates went down, my Kubrow only ever went down like once. And that was only because she was trying to shield me with shelter while we revived them. So in conclusion, Inaros is one of those perfect frames that you can bring pretty much anything or build any way into any challenge put out in front of you. But there are a few things that limit him from being the be-all end-all. One is that the fact that Devour doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and as I stated in the 18.13 update video, it's kind of an issue using Scarab Swarm against nullifiers, especially in in-game level content. Primarily because when you cast Scarab Swarm, you have to hold it, and when you hold it, you drain from yourself your life, and when you touch a nullifier bubble, well, it zaps everything that you put into the Scarab Swarm, but it still leaves that lack of health there, which makes no sense because it's almost as if you put on a steel fiber, and then the nullifier touches you and the steel fiber is no longer present. It's an issue that needs to be addressed because it's not a toggleable ability like Asteria, Exalted Blade, or Defy. It's something that you absorb unto yourself, and therefore it should not be stripped away just because a nullifier touched you. It's an issue, and because it's an issue, it's the only thing that they really need to look into and rework before Inaros can be considered godly. So if you like this video and you love playing Inaros as much as I do, give it a thumbs up, share to your friends, support this page, and wait patiently for other content to be uploaded because we will be taking a small break and you can very well expect a God Build Season 3. So until next time, peace.